Can someone please explain to me why pharmaceutical companies are allowed to blatantly price gouge American citizens? A pricing practice of charging what the market can bear, instead of a fair market price. With life in the balance, profit is still king. Same drug. Same molecule. Same factory. Different country. Different price. A vial of insulin that costs $30 in Canada costs $289 in the United States. A monthly supply of Humira costs $1,300 in the United States. In the United Kingdom, the same supply costs less than $50. A course of Sovaldi, a hepatitis C treatment, was priced at $84,000 in the United States. In Egypt, the same course was sold for $900. Same drug. Same company. Same patent. 93 times the price. The pharmaceutical industry will tell you these differences exist because of manufacturing costs, shipping, research and development. We are going to show you, with documented, publicly available evidence, that none of those explanations hold up. What you are looking at is a company charging exactly what it calculates each market will bear. Not what the drug costs to make. Not what it costs to deliver. What the traffic will allow. Part 1: How drug pricing actually works. In most of the developed world, governments negotiate drug prices directly with pharmaceutical companies. A national health authority evaluates a drug's effectiveness and negotiates a price. If the company doesn't accept it, the drug isn't covered. That leverage keeps prices in check. The United States is the primary exception. Until the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, and even now only in extremely limited form, Medicare was legally prohibited from negotiating drug prices. Private insurers negotiate individually, fragmented across thousands of plans, with far less leverage than a unified national system. The result: pharmaceutical companies in the United States face the least price resistance of any major market on earth. And they price accordingly. In 2019, Pfizer's then CEO Ian Read stated openly that the United States market subsidizes research and development costs for the rest of the world. It sounds almost reasonable until you examine it. Because what it actually means is this: pharmaceutical companies have made a deliberate business decision to concentrate the maximum financial burden on American patients, not because it is economically necessary but because the American political system allows them to. They charge more because they can. That is the complete explanation. Part 2: The evidence, drug by drug. The pattern only becomes undeniable when you see it repeated across different drugs, different companies, and different countries. Insulin, for example. Insulin has been around for over 100 years. The original patent was sold for $1. It is not a new drug requiring extensive cost recovery. A 2021 RAND Corporation study found insulin prices in the United States were approximately 10 times higher than in 32 other nations. The three companies controlling 90% of the global insulin market, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi, manufacture insulin in the same facilities for global distribution. The drug going into an American patient is chemically identical to the drug going into a Canadian or German patient. A Senate Finance Committee investigation found Eli Lilly's manufacturing cost for a vial of Humalog was approximately $3.69. The American list price, $274. A markup of approximately 7,400%. The same insulin in Canada, $30. In 2019, Alex Smith, a 26-year-old in Minnesota, died rationing his insulin after aging off his parents' insurance. His monthly cost was approximately $1,150. He made too much for Medicaid. Too little to survive. A Yale University study found approximately 1 in 4 insulin-dependent diabetics in the United States has rationed insulin due to cost. Humira. Abvi's Humira, treating arthritis, Crohn's disease, and psoriasis, ran approximately $1,300 per month in the United States. In the United Kingdom, less than $50. In Germany, approximately $130. The drug is identical in every market. Abvi points to rebates and patient assistance programs. But those rebate systems exist precisely because list prices are artificially inflated, and the people paying full list prices are the ones who can least afford it. Sovaldi. In 2014, Gilead priced its hepatitis C treatment at $84,000 for a 12-week course in the United States, $1,000 per pill, per day. In Egypt and India, $900 for the same course. A Senate Finance Committee investigation found Gilead's own internal documents showed the company had explicitly rejected lower price points, not because they were unsustainable, but because higher prices were achievable in the American market. They had the data. They made the choice. EpiPen. When Mylan acquired the EpiPen in 2007, a 2-pack cost $100. By 2016, $608. A 500% increase in 9 years. The active ingredient costs roughly $1. The device costs approximately $30 to manufacture. In the United Kingdom, $31. Australia, $40. France, $35. The families of children with severe allergies had no choice but to buy it. Mylan knew that. The pricing reflected. Cancer drugs Keytruda, Merck's breakthrough cancer immunotherapy, costs approximately $190,000 annually in the United States. In Australia it is covered at minimal patient cost. In Germany, analyses estimate prices 30 to 50% below American levels. The industry points to research and development costs. That argument deserves acknowledgement, but a 2018 study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that every single one of the 210 drugs approved by the FDA between 2010 and 2016 had received NIH funding at some stage. American taxpayers fund the research. American patients pay the highest prices in the world for the results. That is not a market efficiency. That is a transfer of public investment into private profit. Part 3, the arguments, and why they fail. Shipping and proximity. Canada shares the longest international border in the world with the United States. Windsor is across a river from Detroit. Vancouver is 90 minutes from Seattle. Canadian insulin prices are 1/10 of American prices. Australia is 9,000 miles away across an ocean. Australian prices are a fraction of American prices. Mexico shares a 2,000-mile border with the United States. Americans drive across it specifically to buy affordable medication. Lipitor costs $160 per month in the United States. In Mexico, $12. The proximity argument evaporates on contact with actual data. Research and development. Here is the industry's strongest case: development costs between $1 and $3 billion per drug. Patent windows are limited. American prices fund global innovation. It is a coherent argument. It is also significantly overstated. The cost figures come primarily from industry-funded studies. Independent analyses in JAMA Internal Medicine estimate substantially lower figures when accounting for tax deductions on research expenses. In 2019, the largest pharmaceutical companies spent approximately 17% of revenue on R&D and 27% on marketing and administration. Net profit margins across the industry average 15 to 20%, among the highest of any sector on earth. And most critically, if lower international prices were truly unsustainable, companies would not sell at those prices. They do. Consistently. Profitably. The R&D argument has some merit at its edges. It has no merit at its core. Part 4, Who pays and who profits? 26 million uninsured Americans pay list prices directly. The underinsured pay full list prices until deductibles are met. Medicare spent approximately $200 billion per year on drugs before limited reforms, the excess above international prices representing an ongoing transfer from taxpayers to pharmaceutical revenues. Meanwhile, Pfizer reported net income of approximately $31 billion in 2022. AbbVie reported net revenues of approximately $58 billion. Johnson & Johnson's pharmaceutical segment reported operating profits of approximately $26 billion. And their CEOs, AbbVie's Richard Gonzalez, approximately $22 million. Pfizer's Albert Bourla, approximately $24 million. Johnson & Johnson's Joaquin Dueto, approximately $29 million. These are compensation figures paid by companies whose pricing decisions determine whether American patients can afford to stay alive. That is not an abstraction. Part 5, Political architecture that makes it possible. The pricing structure that allows Americans to pay 10 times what Canadians pay for the same insulin exists because a political system permits it. The pharmaceutical industry spent over $370 million on federal lobbying in 2023. More than any other sector. Since 1998, more than $7 billion total. The return on that investment is the pricing freedom that generates the profits that fund the next round of lobbying. The Medicare drug pricing prohibition was not an oversight. It was a deliberate provision inserted by lawmakers who received pharmaceutical contributions, and in at least one prominent case, went on to receive a $2 million annual salary from the industry's primary lobbying organization. When the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 gave Medicare limited negotiating authority over just 10 drugs, the pharmaceutical industry sued the federal government, arguing that being required to negotiate prices violated their constitutional rights. That argument did not succeed. But the fact that it was made, with full legal resources, tells you everything about the lengths this industry will go to protect a pricing structure that has no parallel in the developed world. Same drug. Same molecule. Same factory. $30 in Canada. $289 in the United States. $50 in the United Kingdom. $1,300 in the United States. $900 in Egypt. $84,000 in the United States. The explanations do not survive the numbers. Canada is next door. Prices are 1/10 of American prices. Manufacturing cost for insulin, $3.69. American list price, $274. Gilead's own document confirms Sovaldi was priced on what the market would bear. The pharmaceutical industry charges what it charges in America because America, alone among wealthy nations, built a political system that allows it. Because the industry spent $7 billion over 2 decades ensuring that system stayed in place. Because the people with the power to change it were receiving the contributions that made change inconvenient. The scientists who invented insulin sold their patent for $1 each. They did not want a life-saving medication to be unaffordable. The industry that now controls that medication charges a 7,400% markup in the market least able to resist. Alex Smith was 26 years old. He rationed his insulin. He died. The companies that made the insulin he needed reported record profits that same year. This is not a market failure. A market failure is unintentional. This is a market operating exactly as the people who shaped it intended. The price of insulin is not a chemistry problem. It is not a logistics problem. It is not a research and development problem. It is a corruption problem. And corruption, unlike chemistry, has a known cure. It's called accountability. So, explain to me why this market has such huge price discrepancies? Why is the medicine here so expensive? When it's a fraction of the cost in a country where it costs significantly more to ship the medicines to? Why are politicians controlled by lobbyists allowed to keep this practice in play? In many cases this is life or death for American citizens. This is medicines or food on the table. This is unacceptable. If this material interests you, then please like and subscribe. There's a lot more stories out there like this one.